Queen Zira's crest flared subtly as Chancellor Terot's voice cut through the bolted chamber of the Imperial Council, his words a blade wrapped in deference. By the mandate of the five houses and the Armada's unyielding consensus, the Asterian Dominion enters concilium with the Terran Republic. A formal union shall seal the ceasefire, averting the trade war's spiral into fleet engagements across the Veil routes. The chamber's holographic eddies stilled, projections of disrupted freighters and starving colonies hanging like accusations in the air. Zira's multifaceted eyes swept the assembly, 24 ministers in their iridescent robes, each a nexus of factional webs she had navigated since her ascension. Her voice emerged steady, a cascade of authority laced with the Dominion's ancient timbre. The Council's directive binds us. I accept, in full protocol, the concilium and its union. Let envoys prepare the rites. Murmurs rippled, but none dared fracture the moment. Stability demanded this. Her legacy permitted no less. She rose from the throne dais, her segmented limbs unfolding with imperial grace, signaling the session's end. Protocol held, brittle as spun crystal. In the antechamber's shadowed alcove, as attendants adjusted her coronal mantle, Tyrode approached, his own crest low in calculated submission. Empress. This. Pairing with a human. The traditionalist's murmur of diluted bloodlines. Zira's gaze pinned him, unyielding. Murmurs are wind. Chancellor. Leverage is steel. Dispatch the acceptance to Terra. Let them name their consort. Across the galactic divide, in the stark briefing vault of the Terran Senate outpost on Epsilon Drift, Corporal Jonah Hale stood before the holotable, the duty orders glowing in harsh blue. His uniform, simple gray fatigues with Republic insignia, hung crisp despite the weeks of transit fatigue. The Senate liaison, a wiry admiral with a perpetual frown, slid the stylus forward. Ceremonial spouse and military liaison to the Asterian court. Sign Hale. Refusal means court-martial. Jonah's jaw tightened fractionally, but his hand moved without hesitation, inking the contract in a fluid stroke. Penalty of discipline. Full awareness. He pulled spec ops in the fringe skirmishes, close quarters takedowns, forensic sweeps amid plasma fire. But this? Parading as some alien queen's symbolic arm candy to broker peace, duty didn't question. It executed. Signed, he said flatly, voice carrying the quiet resolve of a man who'd run marathons on half rations without a word. The Admiral nodded curtly. Shuttle leaves in 2 hours. Represent us clean. The presentation hall thrummed with restrained anticipation, its vaulted dome alive with projected starfields and the low hum of security turrets embedded in the friezes. Zira occupied the central dais, flanked by Terot and a phalanx of honor guards, their energy lances humming faintly. The viewing gallery above brimmed with court nobles, their crests flickering in shades of intrigue and disdain. Protocol dictated precision. The human would kneel, pledge fealty in the rite of binding, and retreat to ceremonial obscurity. A stabilizing fiction, nothing more. The grand doors parted with a resonant chime admitting Jonah Hale. He strode forward unerringly, boots echoing on the polished obsidian floor, his posture neither servile nor defiant, just professional, eyes scanning the space with the subtle sweep of ingrained habit. No Terran pomp, just a soldier broad-shouldered and steady, carrying a sidearm holstered low. Zira watched him approach, cataloging details. The even gait despite 0J transit scars on his skin. The way his gaze flicked to the turrets without lingering. Humans were baseline primates, resilient scavengers by Dominion xenoprofiles. Endurable, perhaps, but unremarkable in the galactic weave. He halted at the dais's base, snapping a Republic salute. Corporal Jonah Hale, reporting as assigned. Ready for the rite. Terot leaned in, murmuring, "Observe the form, Empress. Adequate at best." The rite commenced. An acolyte intoned the vows in High Velari. Translation feeds piping to Jonah's implant. He repeated them verbatim, accent precise after crash courses in transit, adapting to the sibilant phonemes as if they'd been drilled since birth. Zira inclined her head, extending a clawed hand for the symbolic clasp. Their palms met, his calloused warmth against her cool chitin, and the hall's emitters pulsed in binding light. Then, catastrophe cracked the ceremony. A security turret above the gallery whirred erratically, its calibration glitching from a phantom surge. Perhaps sabotage, perhaps flaw. It swiveled wildly, crimson targeting beam lancing toward the dais, energy capacitor whining to discharge. Gasps rippled. Guards raised lances too late. Nobles recoiled. Jonah moved first. In a blur of economy, he pivoted into a defensive crouch, positioning his body between the turret and Zira without a glance for permission. His free hand snapped to his sidearm, drawing and firing in one seamless motion, a muffled pulse that struck the turret's emitter node. Sparks erupted. The weapon slewed inert, slumping silent. The hull froze. Jonah straightened, holstering smoothly, expression unchanged. Misfire neutralized, ma'am. Clear. Zyra's crest flared involuntarily, a rare tell of adrenal surge. The human hadn't flinched, hadn't boasted, merely acted, his stance a geometry of lethal efficiency no protocol had advertised. Xenoprofiles noted human endurance, yet this. Predictive precision amid chaos. She straightened, voice projecting calm command. Stand down, all. The rite concludes unbroken. Teyrat recovered swiftly, his robe swirling as he ascended the dais steps. Empress, this incident underscores the peril. A human consort, now proven volatile, compromises prestige. I motion rescission under Clause 17, preservation of divine mandate purity. The gallery stirred, crests aligning in support. Zira felt the factional tide pull, Teyrat's opportunism gleaming. But leverage. The trade route stabilized, the armada spared attrition. Dismissal now invited war. Motion denied, Chancellor, she declared, her tone brooking no fracture. Retention of this union preserves diplomatic steel. The incident reveals competence, not threat. Commission a full background audit of Corporal Hale. Discreet. Exhaustive. I will have variables known. Teyrat's mandibles clicked faintly in retreat, bowing. As you decree. Jonah stood impassive below, awaiting orders, his pulse steady as if dismantling rogue tech were morning drill. Zira met his gaze levelly, reassessing. Not mere ceremony, an operational factor. Breaching custom risked court whispers, but evaluation demanded data. Corporal Hale, she addressed him directly, voice carrying to the gallery. You are granted limited access to restricted military archives, navigation logs, bail route analytics. Assist in auditing trade disruptions. Prove your utility. His nod was crisp. Understood, Empress. Where do we start? She gestured to attendants who parted the dais for descent. As they walked the hall's periphery, protocol bending to permit proximity, Exira noted his stride matching hers without strain, questions already forming on his lips about turret diagnostics. No awe at her court, just focus. The human's resilience flickered in her thoughts. Not arrogance, but quiet capability, alien yet intriguing. In the adjacent scriptorium amid humming data spires, Jonah interfaced his implant with a console, fingers dancing across alien glyphs he'd parsed en route. Zira observed from her overlook perch, Teyrat's auditors lurking in shadows. The soldier cross-referenced logs with forensic speed, murmuring correlations between turret glitches and recent freighter pings. Patterns in interference waves no Velari analyst had linked. Here, Jonah said, projecting a nexus map. Sabotage signatures match the trade saboteurs, not random, targeted, at the rite itself. Zira's eyes narrowed, approval threading her response. Elaborate. Ripple effects, he replied simply. No lecture, just facts. Disrupt the Union, fracture the ceasefire. Your security net caught the turret early. Humans train for worse in spec ops. Her crest eased, a subtle acknowledgement. Competence, unheralded. Teyrat would scheme. Factions gnaw. But this variable held potential. Protocol held its breath, but Zira sensed the first crack, curiosity piercing formality. As archives hummed around them, Jonah pulled another thread, a minor code variance in Armada relays, multitasking diagnostics while noting cultural right subtleties in the logs.
Zira leaned closer, her isolation easing fractionally.
The soldier obeyed without resentment, adapted without fanfare. Perhaps the mandate steel lay in such unlikely alloys. Jonah Hale deactivated the archive terminal with a precise tap, his human fingers lingering a fraction longer on the interface as if committing the relay variants to memory without a scribe's aid.
Your Radiance, he said, turning to face her directly. The Terran Republic's liaison protocols require escalation.
Joint patrol coordination begins now. Integrated defense grids, shared command rotations, and formal military interoperability drills by dawn cycle. Zira's crest feathers ruffled involuntarily, the archivist drones whirring in protest at the abrupt shift from scholarly hush to decree. Demands. From a corporal. Yet his tone carried no bluster, only the unyielding cadence of a soldier reciting Senate mandates. She straightened, her armored robes whispering against the crystal floors, and met his gaze. Those steady brown eyes, unblinking amid the Dominion's opulent gloom. You presume much, Corporal Hale. The Imperial Armada does not yield guardship to off-world consorts. He did not flinch. The Concilium Treaty mandates it, Radiance. Article 7. Mutual defense postures. Without integration, the Republic withdraws patrol assets from the outer rims. Multitasking effortlessly, he synced his wrist projector to the chamber's hollow display, projecting schematics of Terran patrol vectors overlaying Valari shield perimeters. Lines converged seamlessly, revealing efficiencies her tacticians had overlooked in rote simulations. Her viziers exchanged mandibled clicks of unease from the shadowed alcoves, but Zira silenced them with a raised talon. The archive's glow caught the subtle tension in Jonah's jaw. Not arrogance, but duty etched like a blade's edge. She had seen Valari captains falter under less scrutiny. Very well. Prove its merit. Lead a demonstration for the palace guard. Disarm the primary training drone in the courtyard, without breaching the mosaic perimeter. Jonah nodded once, as if this were routine muster. Acknowledged. The grand courtyard thrummed under the twin moon's light, its iridescent mosaic a sacred relic of the first mandate, untouched by blade or blast for millennia. Palace guards, elite Valari in scaled plate, formed a precise phalanx, their energy lances humming at low yield. The training drone descended from its launch pylon, a sleek predator, 8 limbs whirring with monomolecular cutters, programmed to simulate an infiltrator breach. It darted erratically, feinting toward the mosaic's gilded heart. Zira observed from the dais, her perch flanked by Teyrod and a cadre of nobles, their crests flared in anticipation of failure. Jonah stepped forward unarmed, save for a standard-issue vibro-knife holstered at his thigh. No shield emitter. No exosuit. The guards tensed, lances tracking the drone's blur. He moved like water through stone. Low, economical, reading the drone's predictive algorithms from its micro-thruster flares. A feint left, Jonah rolled beneath, knife flicking up to sever a sensor cluster without sparking the mosaic. The drone compensated, limbs converging in a lethal spiral. Gasps rippled through the ranks as he multitasked, barking coordinates to the nearest guards. Flank Alpha, suppress ventral, while pivoting into its blind arc. His blade danced precise disabling power relays one by one. The drone shuddered, plummeted, inert to the sward's edge. Not a single mosaic tile cracked. Silence crashed over the courtyard, broken only by the guard's stunned mandible clacks. A young captain lowered his lance, optics widening. Impossible precision. It anticipated our phalanx gaps. Zira's pulse quickened beneath her regal facade, a rare warmth threading her isolation. The human had not merely disabled, he had woven their formation into his tactic, exposing Valari rigidity where rote drills failed. Form the joint watch roster, she commanded, voice carrying like thunder over crystal. Under Corporal Hale's oversight, tradition bends to necessity. Territ scales bristled, his voice a silken hiss. Radiance, guardship exclusivity is mandate law. Overridden, she cut in, eyes locked on Jonah as he sheathed his knife, breathing even. No sweat beading his brow despite the exertion that would have winded a lesser species. Endurance, uncomplaining. Her court murmured, crests dipping in deference, but the fracture lines spider-webbed outward. By mid-cycle, the fracture widened. Herald drone swarms buzzed through the capital spires, broadcasting an edict from the noble conclave. By ancient law of the Third Concord, interspecies bonding profanes the divine mandate. The off-world consort voids the concilium sanctity. Public unease ignited. Holoforums flared with glyph protests, merchant castes withholding tribute, the treaty's optics fracturing like flawed crystal. Zira strode into the conclave hearing chamber, her presence parting the throng of robed nobles like a grave wave. The edict sponsor, a hawk-faced governor, bowed low but pressed. Enforcement demands the human's expulsion, Radiance. Public order fractures. She mounted the adjudication dais, talons clicking authority. Jonah stood at her flank, silent protocol observer, his presence a quiet defiance. Immediate enforcement serves no stability, she declared, voice laced with imperial steel. The edict circulates for review. In interim, Corporal Hale receives limited ceremonial privileges, watch command, treaty audiences. Optics demand balance, not rupture. Murmurs swelled. Some crests flared approval at pragmatism, others snapped shut in outrage. Teyrod, from his chancellor's alcove, inclined his head with feigned deference, but Zira caught the flicker in his optics. Calculation. As the hearing dispersed, Tayrot moved like shadow, convening in the veiled antechamber with Lady Merrick, rival suitor, her plumage a cascade of Dominion golds, ambition sharpening her gaze, and a cluster of traditionalist governors. The Queen's concession emboldens the Terran, he murmured, projecting coalition tallies. Align your houses. Demand the humans' removal at the next convocation. Prestige or treaty, the choice narrows. Lady Merrick's mandibles parted in a predatory smile. The mandate favors purity. We break the custom, she breaks the court. Zero retreated to her private eyrie, the city's glow pulsing below like a wounded heart. Jonah lingered at the threshold, dismissed yet present by privilege. Radiance, the joint roster holds. First patrol sinks at dawn. She turned, propriety cracking in the privacy of wind-whipped heights. You lead where Valari hesitate. Why no fatigue? Our guard cycle shifts thrice your span. Training radiance. Humans, adapt. He shrugged, humble as ever, scanning the horizon with pattern-seeking eyes, spotting a relay flicker her sentinels missed. Stormfront inbound. Recommend drone dispersal. She signaled compliance, watching him bond effortlessly with her aides via shared hololink. The court argued over fractures, but here, in quiet command, alloy formed. Custom cracked when the human led the drill. Now they debated what to break next, edict, tradition, or the Chancellor's web. Her isolation eased another fraction, mandate steel tempering in human fire. The alliance held, fragile yet unbowed. Queen Zira's voice cut through the command chamber like a blade through silk. Corporal Hale, explain the breach and hold. Why did your improvisation contain the breach when protocol failed? Jonah stood at ease before her throne dais, his Terran uniform unmarked by the simulated chaos of the drill, sweat beading on his brow but posture unyielding. Around them, the chamber's holodisplays flickered with replay feeds, Valari guards in rigid phalanxes, shattered by the intruders, while Jonah's ad hoc squad, mixed aides and sentries, had pivoted into overlapping fire arcs, sealing the armory mock-up in under 90 seconds. Her tacticians shifted uneasily, their iridescent scales dulling with unease. He met her gaze without flinching, a human trait she noted anew. Direct, unadorned by deference veils. Ma'am, standard doctrine assumes clean lines and known vectors. The sim threw curveballs, false echoes, adaptive drones. Breach and hold treats the gap like a wound. Plug it fast with whatever's at hand, then layer reinforcements. We used cargo pallets for cover, rerouted a maintenance drone for overwatch, held till backup cycled in. Zira's mandibles clicked softly, a private tell of calculation. The neighboring Krell warlord scouts had pierced their outer perimeter that morning, real probes, not sims, slipping past sensor nets tuned for massed fleets. Reports scrolled her private link. 3 frigates ghosting supply lanes. Testing resolve. The concilium demanded visible unity now, or fractures would widen. Jonah's drill had mirrored that vulnerability, turning mock disaster into mastery.
And the armory sabotage?
Protocol called for full retreat. Retreat cedes ground, he said simply. We multitasked. One team held the door, another traced the saboteur's signature through the vents. Pattern from the drone chatter. Improv isn't chaos. It's reading the flow. His eyes flicked to the aides behind her, who nodded subtly. Earlier, over HoloLink, he'd walked them through Terran field mods, forging quiet rapport amid their skepticism. She signaled dismissal to the tacticians, their bows stiff with unspoken protest. This chamber will integrate Corporal Hale's methods into briefings. He shifts from consort to consultant. Gasps rippled propriety's first fracture. Her chief adjunct, Lyra, scaled brighter. Approval or alarm? Zira couldn't parse yet. But the Krell threat loomed. Dismissal was no longer viable. Hours later, as stellar charts dimmed for the private audience, Zyra waved the full court veil. No honor guard flanked her throne, only dimmed lumens and a single data plinth between them. Jonah entered alone, saluting crisply. Protocol reduced to this. Intimate, exposed. Her pulse quickened beneath the mandate's weight. Isolation had armored her, but alliance demanded breach. Speak freely, Corporal, she said, mandibles parting in rare candor. Your watch rotation proposal. Detail it. He activated the plinth, overlaying armory schematics with rotating shifts. Human-style overlaps. No rigid cycles. The Lari rotations are efficient for rest but predictable. Krell scouts exploit patterns. We saw it today. Staggered humans with your teams. 12-hour pulls, but with microswaps every 2. Multitask patrols. Scans, plus visual sweeps. I learned your sensor blind spots in a drill. Pair 'em with our eyes. She leaned forward, Franz tasting the air's tension. His voice carried no boast, just mechanic patience, as if fortifying her realm were rote labor. You adapt our system swiftly. How? Training, ma'am. Terran's drill cross-domain, combat, forensics, even linguistics. Connects dots others silo. He paused, gesturing to a sim replay. Like here, vent signature matched Krell probe harmonics from this morning's recon. Not coincidence. Zira's Franz stilled. He'd correlated real-time intel mid-drill without prompting. Her analysts took cycles for such links. He bridged them in moments. Implement it. Narrow the watches as recommended. The words hung formal distance thinning. For the first time, counsel flowed unfiltered. Mandate bending to shared peril. Dawn brought the leak. Court propagandists. Chancellor Tayrot's tendrils she knew, fed selective holofeeds to the governor's net. Clips stripped context, Jonah barking orders amid barbaric pallet barricades. Aides scrambling in disarray. Armory breached before his hold. Headlines flared across Dominion channels. Terran Savage disrupts sacred drill. Union taints legacy. Regional missives flooded her queue. Governor Vexer of the core worlds. Human methods evoke primal hordes, unfit for Dominion grace. Mandate demands purity. Thaler Rimlords echoed, doubts reignited, concilium as dilution, not strength. Tayrot's hologram manifested unbidden in her sanctum, his scales oiled with false deference. Majesty, the governor's petition review, the human's ferocity alarms. Expel to preserve harmony? Zira's gaze hardened, Franz coiling. Harmony? Tayrot spun webs for his claimants, traditionalists hungry for her throne's fracture. The Krell recompressed. Expulsion would signal weakness. Alliance crumbling. Jonah's tactics had contained the sim sabotage and mirrored real probes. She would not yield prerogative. Chancellor, commission an independent review. Neutral arbiters, Armada veterans, no faction ties. Scrutinize Corporal Hale's practices against doctrine. Tyrant's mandibles parted in shock. Scales paling. Full transparency. If barbaric, prove it. Until then, he consults. Your will, Majesty. He hissed. Hologram winking out. Victory tasted sharp, politically deft, protecting the concilium without rash purge. But isolation nipped. Governors murmured sedition. Tayrot's web tightening. That eve, as watch rotation cycled under Jonah's guidance, Zira observed from overlook. Mixed teams moved fluidly. Velari precision laced with human grit. Sentries joked across barriers, a human pun eliciting trill laughter from Lyra. Jonah multitasked seamlessly, briefing a patrol, tweaking a sensor. Eyes scanning stars for Krell ghosts. No fatigue shadowed him. Where her guards flagged after shifts, he endured. Humble engine. A true probe pinged. Krell frigate edging closer. Alarms trilled. Jonah's voice crackled over comms. Hold formation. Pattern match. Faint left. Probe right. Reroute drone. Now. Uptakes teams pivoted. Is breach and hold sealing the vector. Contained in minutes. No breach. Zira's Franz unfurled in quiet awe. Improvisation worked, because humans saw the unseen. Patterns in chaos. Bonds in divide. Tayrot's leak faltered. Governor's doubts met steel. In the chamber below, aides clustered around Jonah, scales bright with questions. Her adjunct Lyra touched his arm. Pack gesture, cross-species. She descended, throne presence lightened. Corporal, the review begins tomorrow. Walk with me. Protocol cracked further. They strode corridors side by side, discussing rotations amid starlit voids. Krell pressure mounted, but here, alloy strengthened, duty forging partnership. Court webs tangled, yet mandate held, tempered by human fire unyielding. Tyrot would counter, governors press, but doctrine shifted, a drill's echo rippled outward. Zira felt the change, not isolation but alliance, fragile no more. Jonah glanced sidelong, humble query in his eyes. Recommendations holding, ma'am? Better, she replied, mandibles curving faintly. They hold because of you. Wonder stirred, alien to her steel, human ordinary, dominion extraordinary. The stars watched, Krell lurking, but unity gleamed. Jonah's fingers danced across the holographic intercept feed, pinning glowing threads of data to the chamber's central projection. Here, he said, voice steady as the void. 3 supply convoys hit in the last cycle. Krell raiders claimed responsibility, but the vectors don't match their swarm tactics. Too precise, too internal. Trace the plasma residue signatures back through the Dominion relay nets. Queen Zira leaned forward on her throne days, her compound eyes narrowing at the lattice of crimson lines snaking from border skirmishes inward, toward the palace's own substructure. The humans' calm dissection unsettled her. The Falari analysts had flagged the attacks as external probes, fodder for rallying the governors. Yet Jonah Hale unraveled it like a frayed tether, connecting residue isotopes to maintenance drones dispatched from her very seat of power. A sleeper network, he called it. Anti-alliance cells burrowed into the conduits that fed lifeblood to the Imperial Armada. Her mandibles clicked softly, a habit cracking the regal mask. You claim treason trails into my palace conduits? The words hung heavy, laced with the weight of divine mandate. Tradition demanded she dismiss a consort's speculation, especially a human's, but the pattern stared back unyielding. Confirmed, Jonah replied. Multitasking feeds with effortless rhythm. Cross-referencing drone logs against governor manifests while sketching counter routes on a secondary pain pack. No fatigue shadowed his brow, though they'd reviewed border dispatches through the night. Operatives rerouted power surges to mask their insertions. I've isolated 12 nodes. We strike surgically, seal vents, flood with inert gas, extract for interrogation. Zira's crest flared briefly, signaling ascent amid the storm of implications. Palace conduits were sacred veins, patrolled by sworn Valari only. To yield them to an off-worlder, yet the supply lines held because of him, as she'd admitted. Her voice cut the air like a blade. Led the counterintelligence under my seal. Tradition bends to survival. Jonah nodded once, already cueing drone overrides, his human resilience a quiet force. No boast, just action. She watched him pivot to the ops console, adapting to Valari code hierarchies faster than her own tech priests, forging a targeted sweep that layered forensic traces with live pursuit vectors. Wonder flickered again, unbidden. This corporal treated galactic intrigue as routine maintenance. The chamber doors hissed open to admit Chancellor Teyrot, his robes swirling like agitated nebulae. Lady Merrick at his flank, her spines rigid with the fervor of a traditionalist firebrand. Hollow screens in their wake broadcast live feeds from the governor's conclave, faces etched in outrage. Your radiance, Teyrot intoned, bowing low but eyes gleaming with calculated fervor. The governors demand justice. This human consort's meddling invites chaos. Border losses mount and now whispers of palace compromise. Remove Corporal Hale at once, or face mass resignations. The Dominion crumbles under alien hands. Lady Merrick's voice sliced sharper, her pheromones thick with accusation. He poisons our conduits with off-world probes. Tradition forbids it. Exile him, lest the divine mandate fracture. Zira rose, her form towering, iridescent carapace catching the light like armored stars. The council feed captured every nuance, her mandibles held firm, no quiver betraying the factional knives at her throat. Teyrot's opportunism was no surprise. His rival claimants circled, hungry for her throne amid the alliance's strain. Yet Jonah's patterns rang true. Expedience whispered retreat, but legacy demanded steel. Silence, she commanded, the chamber quelling under her gaze. Privately, in closed council holoseal, she keyed the commendation. Corporal Jonah Hale's analysis unveils sleeper sabotage threading palace infrastructure. His lead secures the realm. Counter-operations proceed under his direction. The seal flashed gold, irrevocable. The human's insight preserves our lines, charges dismissed. Investigations advance. Teyrot's crest dimmed, a physiological flinch she savored. Radiance, the governors, will hold. Zira interrupted, propriety cracking into iron resolve. Or join the implicated. Jonah worked on beside her, oblivious to the political gale, his pattern recognition weaving drone paths through conduit mazes while he murmured adjustments to her aides. Humans juggled crises like breath. She noted. No arrogance, just unyielding focus. Her own Valari mind excelled at fleet maneuvers, vast symmetries, but this granular hunt. His creativity bridged gaps her rote protocols missed. Alarms trilled as the first node breached. Holo feeds bloomed. Inert gas bloomed in maintenance shafts, flushing 2 operatives, magistrates' aides, their carapaces marked with anti-alliance glyphs. Jonah's voice cut through. Secondary node secure. Forensic locks confirmed Tehran's provincial supply manifests routed the drones. The Chancellor's spine stiffened, but Zira pressed forward. Detain all extracted. Exile magistrates Vor and Liarai. Their networks end here. Fallout would ripple. Governors' resignations loomed. Traditionalists baying for blood. Yet palace integrity outweighed it. Krell lurked beyond, and fractured supply lines invited invasion. Tyrot bowed stiffly, retreating with Marek, their pheromones souring the air. As you command, Radiance. But the court watches. Let them, she replied, mandibles curving in faint resolve. Jonah glanced up, meeting her eyes. No triumph in his. Only quiet partnership. He'd traced the impossible, led without demand, his endurance chaining night to dawn without falter. She felt the shift. Cold formality warming to alliance forged in fire. In the ops chamber's hush, as drones sealed the final vents, Zira placed a clawed hand near his console. Not touching, propriety's ghost lingering, but close. Your patterns saved us conduit's heart. Dominion owes you this truth. Jonah paused, rubbing his neck in that human tick of humility. Just connecting dots, your radiance. Your authorization made it real. No superiority, yet his adaptability humbled her techs. They'd researched human lore in hushed sessions, marveling at tales of endurance across voids, but witnessing it. Patterns across domains. Combat forensics to intrigue. Weaving novel counters her analysts rote-chased. A aide approached, crest low. Operatives detained. Magistrates en route to exile barges. Governors murmur, but lines hold firm. Zira nodded. The political cost a blade, she wielded gladly. Tehran's faction reeled, their sabotage exposed, but respect stirred in her core. Human ordinary turning extraordinary, collaborative spark igniting Volari steel. Jonah multitasked final logs, explaining a creative gas mix tweak to her engineers with patient clarity bridging their precision with his improvisation. They listened, spines easing, amazement dawning. This alien read subtexts they pheromoned blindly. As the hollow dimmed, Zira felt the palace breathe secure, Unity's gleam sharpening against Krell shadows, enforcement over expedience. The trail led inward and she'd followed it with him. Hours bled into the cycle's turn, but Jonah pressed on, analyzing residual data for deeper webs. Zyra remained, her presence a silent bulwark, propriety fracturing into shared vigilance. A minor breach pinged, residual charge in a tertiary conduit. Got it, he said. Rerouting drones mid-conversation. Is psychological resilience a beacon, optimism unbroken by Tehran's barbs or the night's toll? Her mind raced ahead, politically. Exiles would quell traditionalists short-term, but Tehran's maneuvers demanded counterfactions. Jonah's emotional intelligence surfaced unasked. He noted her crest's subtle droop. Governors respect results. Show them the feeds. Let patterns speak. She clicked agreement. Mandible softening, pack bonding, humans called it. Across chitin and flesh, it formed. Volari honored hierarchies eternal. His fluid alliances taught mutuality. Her legacy teaching him Dominion's vast symmetries. Lady Merrick's missive arrived via secure relay. Resignations tendered unless human yields command. Zira deleted it unread, turning to Jonah. They escalate. Your lead holds. He grinned faintly, humble curve. Together. Creativity flared. He proposed a joint demo for governors. Live trace of a neutral conduit, showcasing human Velari fusion. Her engineers nodded, their initial dismissals yielding to respect. They'd probed human archives, stunned by adaptability norms. Zira authorized it, overturning another tradition, off-worlder briefing provincial lords. Proceed. The order rippled out. Factional tremors be damned. In the conduit's aftermath, as detainees yielded names under interrogation, linking to Tehran's shadows, Zira watched Jonah bond with her guard captain over shared schematics. Humor bridged. Your gas mix tickled my vents, the captain chittered, mandibles quirking. Jonah laughed, explaining the improv without lecture. Mutual growth. He learned Volari scent locks, bay his pattern weaves, palace integrity sealed, but the hook sank deeper. Sabotage's root festered in court hearts. Zira chose partnership, her steel yielding not to weakness, but strength shared. Wonder solidified. Human capability, ordinary to them, wove Dominion's salvation. The stars aligned closer. Shouts erupted from the grand dais as plasma bolts scorched the air, the public ceremony shattering into chaos. Queen Zira's frills flared instinctively, her armored guards crumpling under the onslaught from the breach in the outer walls. A coordinated strike team, cloaked in disruptor fields, pouring through like venom from a hidden stinger. She gripped the podium's edge, her voice cutting through the panic with imperial command. "Hold the perimeter! Armada squadrons, scramble now!" The crowd below the palace steps surged in terror, Balari nobles and off-world dignitaries trampling silks and banners in their flight. Zira's gaze locked on the intruders, 10, no 12, advancing with military precision, their weapons humming with illegal overcharge signatures. Palace guards, elite phalanx wardens trained for ceremonial perfection, faltered first. Two peeled back, their carapaces shuddering as fear pheromones clouded the air. "Fall back to secondary lines," one barked, retreating toward the inner sanctum, leading a gaping vulnerability. Jonah Hale moved before she could process it. The human corporal, stationed at her flank as per the concilium protocols, lunged forward without a word. No dramatic flourish, no barked challenge, just fluid motion, his compact frame interposing between her and the lead assailant. A vibroblade slashed down, aimed for her throat. Jonah twisted into its arc, the edge biting deep into his reinforced quadrant armor over his left shoulder. Blood welled dark and human red, soaking his uniform, but he didn't yield. His free hand clamped the attacker's wrist, wrenching it with a grunt that echoed raw endurance, while his sidearm barked twice, precise shots crumpling the intruder's visor. Zira's hearts pounded in sync, a rare discord in her regal poise. The human took the strike meant for her, his body a living shield where her guards had cracked. Another attacker flanked him. Jonah pivoted, multitasking the melee, blade locked in one grip, pistol firing, boot slamming into a knee joint with improvised force. He was bleeding, vision likely blurring from pain humans masked so fiercely, yet he pressed on. Pattern recognition spotting the team's wedge formation before her tacticians could relay it. "Medics to the dais! Secure the Guardian!" Zira overrode the council's hesitant chatter in her comlink, her voice steel amid the fray. Armada counterstrikes, target their extraction vectors, full dispersal. Drones whirred to life overhead, her orders slicing through delays as field teams swarmed. Jonah staggered but held, shoving the queen behind a marble plinth with unyielding insistence. His eyes met hers for a split second, not pleading, just professional resolve. Then he slumped, the medics hauling him away as phalanx reinforcements finally rallied, driving the remnants back through the breached walls. The palace sealed once more, but the air reeked of ionized metal and spilled vitae. Zira stood tall on the bloodied dais, her gown unmarred save for a singe, as holofeeds captured every angle for the Dominion's broadcasts. Chancellor Teyrot materialized at her side, his mandibles clicking in agitation, but she silenced him with a raised claw. "Prepare my address," she commanded, striding to the central dais overlook. The surviving crowd hushed, eyes wide on their empress. "People of the Asterian Dominion," she intoned, her voice amplified across the capital and beyond, frills extended in unyielding authority. "Today, saboteurs breached our sacred walls, testing the divine mandate that binds us. Our guards held honorably, but one among us redefined valor." She gestured to the medevac shuttle vanishing into the spires. Corporal Jonah Hale of the Terran Republic interposed his form, taking the lethal arc meant for your queen. "He is no mere consort. He is ceremonial guardian, sworn protector of this throne and our alliance. This union is not fragility, it is indispensable steel." Murmurs rippled through the assembly, shock from the traditionalists, tentative nods from the progressives. Zira felt the fracture lines in her court deepen, yet the Humans Act reframed them, not a Terran imposition, but a pivot of survival. Her own resilience stirred admiration for his. Where Valari warriors prized formation and pheromone cohesion, this solitary soldier endured alone, adapting to alien blades without falter. In the shadowed council chamber adjoining the dais, Teyrot wasted no time. "Majesty, this reeks of Terran orchestration," he hissed, his faction's loyalists clustering like hornets. The breach aligned too perfectly with their liaison's positioning. They staged this to embed deeper, demand dissolution of the concilium. Unilateral retaliation, Armada strikes on their frontier outposts. War secures our purity. Zira's gaze pierced him, formal propriety cracking just enough to reveal the fire beneath. "You mistake caution for weakness, Chancellor. Accusations without proof fracture what we must forge." She activated the treaty holo display, ancient accords glowing in starlit script. By Concilium Clause 7, we invoke joint inquiry. No unilateral vengeance, such dissolves the pact and invites galactic predators to our flanks. Teyrot's crest flattened, a physiological tell of suppressed fury. The traditionalists will not abide this, deference to primates. They will abide my command, she replied, her tone broking no fracture. Convene mixed teams, Dominion forensic squads, with Terran analysts. Pursue the attacker's signatures, trace the disruptors, the entry vectors. Guardian Hale's med team reports him stabilizing. Recall him to duty upon recovery. Combined operations protect our ties and expose the traitors festering within. As the chamber emptied, Zira lingered, her claw tracing the hollow map where Jonah's blood still stained the dais feed. Guards had fled their posts in instinctual preservation, a Valari trait, evolution's gift for hive survival. The human had not. He interposed his body, altering the calculus of her kingdom with ordinary grit her species envied in whispers. Partnership was no longer political theater, it was proven bulwark. Hours blurred into strategic frenzy. Zira directed from the war nexus, overriding delays with crisp overrides. Armada interceptors vaporized two assailant skiffs mid-escape, their debris yielding encrypted logs. Jonah's Terran medics worked alongside Dominion healers, his vitals steady despite the gash that would sideline a Valari for cycles. She glimpsed him via secure feed, bandaged, already querying field reports, multitasking recovery with analysis. Humans healed through sheer will, it seemed, their resilience a quiet marvel. Teyrot's probes continued in sidelong council barbs. The human's defense conveniently elevates his station, but Zira parried with data. Blade metallurgy traced to black market forges in rival claimant territories, not Terran alloys. Joint teams mobilized at dawn. Dominion sensor nets paired with human pattern scans predicting saboteur bolt holes. A minor side operative, a lowly archive drone tender named Lyra, relayed a overlooked log. Teyrot's aides had queried palace schematics pre-ceremony. Zira filed it silently, intrigue coiling tighter. By midday, public feeds replayed her address endlessly, reframing the breach's alliance triumph. Nobles who once sneered at the ceremonial spouse now murmured of his quadrant armor. Human improvisation, layering ablative weaves under standard kit. Zira felt the shift in her own pulse. Respect, not obligation, binding her to this unassuming soldier. He had bridged the gap with blood, his humility in crisis teaching her court's fractious hearts a lesson in unyielding form. In the quiet aftermath, as med shuttles ferried him to the secure wing, Zira dispatched a personal communique. Formal, yet laced with a propriety's subtle thaw. Guardian Hale, your interposition honors the mandate. Recover swiftly. The hunt awaits our combined steel. No extravagance, just acknowledgement of shared peril. Wonder took root. This human, deeming his acts routine, wove salvation from chaos her empire nearly lost. Teyrot's faction simmered, but the Empress's calculus had shifted irrevocably. Sabotage's roots festered, yet steel yielded not to weakness, but to strength shared. The stars drew nearer, partnership's light piercing court shadows. Queen Zira's talon tapped the arm of her throne once, sharply, silencing the murmur of the joint inquiry chamber. Holographic projections flickered to life across the vast obsidian table, revealing encrypted data streams Jonah Hale had pried from a saboteur's neural implant. Proof of the Caliph Enclave's tendrils worming into both Dominion and Terran outposts.
Chancellor Teyrot, she intoned, her multifaceted eyes locking onto his feigned composure. The evidence demands unity.
The Enclave seeks our mutual ruin. We shall deny them. Teyrot's frills quivered beneath his robes, a flicker of calculation betraying his poise. Empress, this human's. Forensics may impress, but Dominion law precludes alien-led actions without senatorial oversight. Across the table, Jonah stood unmoved, his Terran uniform stark against the chamber's iridescent walls, fingers still dancing over a portable analyzer as if decoding star charts were child's play. From her vantage, Zira noted the subtle strain in Jonah's posture. 18 cycles of relentless raids, no rest, yet his gaze remained steady, connecting disparate threads. Caliph cipher patterns mirroring Terran black market flows, supply logs tying court suppliers to Enclave proxies. Humans endured like void drifters, she mused, their flesh unyielding where Valari frames would demand rejuvenation.
Oversight yields to necessity, Chancellor.
Corporal Hale coordinates the counter-raids at my directive. Proceed. Jonah inclined his head, voice level. Your Majesty, the next node activates in 3 cycles. My team, Dominion scouts and Terran analysts, has mapped 3 insertion points. We strike surgically, extract the Nexus core. His words wove alien protocols with improvised tactics, adapting Vilari shield harmonics to human breaching charges in a hybrid schema no pureblood tactician had conceived. Teyrot's mandibles clicked in disdain, but Zira saw the chamber's governors shift, their pheromone trails thickening with unease. The raids unfolded in a blur of coordinated fury. Zira monitored from the war nexus, feeds relaying Jonah's form darting through Caliph forward bases, low-grav agility paired with forensic precision, tagging accomplices mid-firefight while multitasking drone overrides and ally extractions. One feed captured him jury-rigging a Dominion pulse rifle with Terran capacitors, extending its yield without overload. A Vilari squad lead later transmitted awe-tinged static. He sees patterns we trace by algorithm. The core is ours. Back in the Joint Tribunal, 2 cycles later, Jonah laid bare the dismantled network. Projected webs linked Enclave agents to Teyrot's traditionalist bloc, forged manifests, diverted armaments, even whispers of secession funding. This isn't isolated sabotage, Jonah said, his tone devoid of triumph, merely factual. It's a wedge to fracture the concilium before it solidifies. Combined, we've severed 87% of their ops. Zira rose, her crown gems pulsing with imperial resolve. The chamber held its breath. Even Teyrot's allies paled as she extended a clawed hand toward Jonah. Your proofs stand unassailable, Corporal. The Dominion acknowledges Terran valor, not as guests, but pillars. Murmurs rippled, but she pressed on. By my mandate, Jonah Hale joins the Privy War Council with full vote. Human insight redefines our bulwarks. Teyrot surged forward, voice a silken lash. Empress, this upends the divine mandate. Governors of the outer spires already petitioned secession. No alien consort shall sully the throne's lineage. A Senate vote looms. Yield to tradition, or watch realms fracture. Zira's gaze pierced him, formal cracks widening into deliberate fissures. Jonah had not demanded this elevation. He had earned it through quiet competence, reading her court subtexts, the wary glances, the hesitant alliances, with an emotional acuity that pierced Vilari stoicism. Where her ministers juggled factions by rote, he bridged them, forging pact bonds across chitin and flesh. She felt the shift within, not capitulation, but evolution. The Senate convoked under aurora-lit domes, traditionalist banners clashing with concilium standards. Hollow votes tallied in tense silence as governors railed, the mandate forbids it. Bondage to primates invites collapse. Teyrot orchestrated the chorus, his opportunistic web fraying under Jonah's prior exposures, 2 of his bloc now implicated. Withdrawing support. Zira stood at the dais, Jonah at her flank, his presence a steady anchor amid the storm. Sovereigns of the Dominion, she declared, voice resonating like starfire. Threats of secession test not my rule, but our vision. The Enclave preys on division. We consolidate. I name Corporal, no commander. Jonah Hale, my consort, and Warden of Palace Defense. This union is no whim of flesh, but strategic forge. Terran resilience tempers Vilari might. Gasps echoed, pheromones spiking in shock. Aspired governors' frills flared. Sanctions, trade embargoes. Yet Zira held, framing it as masterstroke. Human adaptability sealing Dominion flanks, their mutual campaigns already yielding captured Enclave dreadnoughts. Jonah met her sidelong glance. A faint human smile, humble, unpresuming, acknowledging the risk she bore for their shared path. The vote cascaded. Traditionalists splintered, moderates swayed by raid halls and tribunal irrefutables. Revised treaties ratified in a thunder of approvals, formal recognition of the concilium, humans woven into governance with council seats and joint command. Teyrot slunk into shadow, his faction curtailed, as Zira and Jonah assumed duties side by side. In the antechamber, post-ratification, amid clinking goblets and wary toasts, Zira turned to him. Propriety had cracked fully now, yielding to the personal current beneath. You anticipated the governor's pivot, social currents I charted by decree alone. Her claw brushed his sleeve, a gesture alien courts would scandalize, yet earned. Jonah shrugged, eyes crinkling. Just reading the room, Your Majesty. Your leads on faction sense gave me the edge. We make a good team. No arrogance, only the grounded optimism of one who saw equals in difference. Vilari precision honed by human improvisation. She felt the stars align closer. Court shadows receding. Partnership's light, once piercing, now blazed. She was born to rule, and learned that true power lay not in solitary steel, but in an equal's unyielding strength.